Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I bring you part 2 of the Richie and Hazz show. Still here.
Yeah, we hadn't left yet.
Haven't left yet.
Yeah, hadn't been insulted yet. Not enough to leave.
Really?
Yeah.
The Thailand insult didn't get you there?
I don't know. You said something about Thailand that I just don't understand, but that's another story.
I mean, there was a lot of money paid, but we'll just act like it didn't happen.
Okay, because I don't know what you're talking about.
But we're going back to where we left off on part 1, is we were talking about COVID.
Yes.
Vaccines were announced a week after the election. We all know where this is going to go, but I'm going to throw it up. I'm going to lob this off.
Conspiracy.
Was there a conspiracy?
You know, that's one of those things where it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, but
100% conspiracy.
No.
100% conspiracy.
You think?
It was not a medical journal. It was not a test. It was a news release. And let me go ahead and say it.
Then they waited. They waited.
And if they would have done it before Monday of the election, Trump's your president.
You're probably right.
Or
look. Maybe in their defense, maybe they said, "Well, we don't want it to impact the election one way or the other." You know, right?
And not only that, but I mean, when did the test end?
It's not a test.
Well, that's not true. They said it's proven to be 90% effective.
But there was no key peer review study.
There was some study.
There was some internal testing.
There was some study that was done.
It didn't end in 7 days.
Well, we don't know when they ended. You're making a conspiracy argument that may not exist. I'm not saying a
conspiracy argument. I'm saying it's a press release, and they could have done the press release.
But they would have been accused.
But maybe they didn't have the results before the election.
No, I know that's possible, Richie. But I think absolutely, if you're Pfizer, even if you don't like Biden, for example, in your Pfizer, what happens if you release that just pre-election, and then Trump wins? I mean, the fallout for Pfizer would be, let me say, it would be worse than it is now. I mean, so if you release it after the election, if you're Pfizer, you can say, whatever your intentions are, you can say, look, we didn't want this to have any impact on the election one way or the other. We didn't intentionally try to hurt Trump. We weren't trying to help Biden either. We just wanted to wait so that it wouldn't influence the election. I think that's what they would say if it comes out that they knew beforehand.
Now, I'll tell you, they did something very smart. They made sure it's 2 injections so they can bill twice.
That's right.
They made sure about that.
But you think about a company like that?
You're just a miserable person, aren't you?
It's about the money, though, Brent. It's not. I don't think it's the politics.
I'm
Pfizer.
Partners with Richard Schwartz. You don't have to tell me it's about the money.
Y'all know what I'm talking about, then, right? It's about the money. So Pfizer, I think they made a calculated decision. And I'm with you, Brent. If it was a press release, they had it. They just sat on it.
Yes.
And that was probably a business decision more than political.
And Pfizer did not take any.
Even though it stinks,
from the
by the
government.
way, I don't like it.
Huh? No. I think what they did was I think they made an internal decision that it would have been better for business for Biden to be in office. And because, like I said, they did.
How can that be?
I don't
Trump's
know.
already promised to buy.
I think I don't know if they would care who was in office. It would be bad for business if they were perceived to be ones who helped Trump get elected. No, that would be bad for business.
I do believe it, and you can look at the stock market going up after Biden was elected.
Right.
That Biden's Trump. You just don't know what he's going to do. You don't know if he's going to attack. You don't know if he's going to do this. Whether you agree with Biden's policies or not, you know what he's going to do. He has a track record.
Do you?
Yes, he has 46 years. That was his main criticism.
Well, he's actually told us what he's going to do. Different than a lot of people.
You're not going to have any
president.
tweets at midnight. You're not going to have.
But that's all rhetoric. That's all words. I mean, what is he actually going to do?
Words have meaning.
What is he going to do?
Wait a minute.
Okay,
Trump said, "I'm going to make America great," and everybody loved that. What did that mean?
Okay,
but these are actual physical things he said he's going to do.
How many chiefs of staffs do you think Biden's going to have in 4 years?
I don't know. Obama had more than one.
How many? Do you think he's going to have 4? You think he's going to have people like John Kelly getting fired? You think there's an instability, or was an instability in the Trump?
There was some chaos. Yes,
Trump is firing people with 60 days to go. That's insane. Let people ride out. Hey, we tried it. It didn't work. Let me ride out.
And that was probably about the Insurrection Act and him not wanting to pursue that.
I mean, the CIA.
Yes, there was chaos in the Trump. I mean, he hired Scaramucci for like for like a week and then fired him. I mean, yeah. So
and what I'm saying is,
I don't think Biden will have 4, but a lot of this depends. I still believe, and this is not me, I think, just being cynical. I don't think Biden's going to last the whole first term.
It's possible.
He
is older. He's the oldest president we've ever had.
Because I feel like he's either going to end up retiring for health reasons, or this is the more sinister thing. I think this is a real reality is that if he governs more moderately in a more centrist manner, he's going to have internal attacks from that more progressive wing of the party that are going to try to get him out. And so I think you might see a resurgence of Hunter Biden in corruption allegations if Joe Biden does not give to the more radical left elements in the party what they want.
That sounds almost bat crazy.
Oh, come on.
Y'all got a bunch of conspiracies.
When's the last time an extreme wing has tried to remove their president? Can you name it in my lifetime?
An extreme wing has tried to remove their own president?
Their own president. That's what you just said, that the left wing, the progressive group, would
won't be removing their own president. They'll be getting the president they actually wanted, who was Kamala Harris.
They would be removing Biden, which is technically the Democratic president. That's what you just described. That's AON theory.
No, I'm just wait for it. I'm telling you, if the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of the world do not get major concessions, yes, they will go after Biden. This is what they do. They don't care that he's in the same party as them.
One, you cannot name me when you say that's what they do. They've never done that.
They're already doing it. When you have moderate Democrats like those from West Virginia who are starting to say, let's be more centrist and more unifying, they're trashing them openly on Twitter.
But I was here 2 weeks ago or last week saying I have a problem with that because I never hear that from the Republicans. I never hear that we shouldn't talk bad about the dead John McCain. I never hear that I believe in God, I believe in this, and this man's a sinner, and we need to work on that. I hear every time from the Republicans, and I'm not mad about it. They're Ric Flair when Haley Barber was being Haley Barber and pardoned 300 people or 200 whatever people. There was no investigation whether he got paid or not. There was no investigation whether someone contributed to a PAC or not. There's none of that. Every time a Republican gets in power, and it's just like Obama. One of Obama's biggest sins or biggest issues was he had a supermajority, and he was trying to please everybody because the Democrats are weak. They are weak, and I'm fine with. And I'm not saying I agree with AOC, but when the Republicans appoint people, it ain't who's qualified. It's who's in the family. Who's paid their dues?
I saw that firsthand.
And who's young and who can be there for 50 years? Because, we can talk about Justice Barrett all we want. There's no way in my world a 48-year-old should be appointed to the Supreme Court. There's a 55-year-old out there qualified. There's a 60-year-old out there qualified. And experience has to mean something. But
plus someone who's never been in a courtroom.
Well, that's a whole situation.
I think there needs to be some requirement of a certain amount of trial, and going to actual trials and actually conducting them. If you're going to be a judge to determine whether what was done in the trial is correct or not, you should have experience in a courtroom.
But the bottom line
also exclude a lot of more liberal justices like Ellen Kagan. She was the dean of Harvard Law School.
I'm saying for both parties.
I think the same way.
Merits have to come in, or we fail as a country. But back to what you're
I
saying.
agree. I'd rather see someone with trial experience.
Name the Democratic operative who's been the Karl Rove or Steve Bannon equivalent.
Well, what role do you think those guys?
They were consultants. They were
Podesta.
Presidential. But what I'm saying is, no one that radical had been.
Valerie Jarrett. John Podesta.
Valerie Jarrett. Are you comparing Steve Bannon to Jarrett?
I'm trying to remember these.
And what I'm saying is, the radical Democrats.
Rahm Emanuel.
He was nowhere near as radical as Bannon, and that's what I'm saying. The Republicans go in representing the good Lord. That we are been picked by the Lord, and we believe in God, and what we're doing is this. The Democrats are always about unity, bringing the side back together.
Oh, come on.
Name another example where
impeachment. Was that unifying?
No. What I'm saying is
The Russia investigation that had really no good predicate. That wasn't unifying?
Okay, first of all, 17 people had pled guilty to obstruction. I'm the first one to admit there's no evidence.
And now some of those investigators who did that investigation are pleading guilty to crimes.
Which ones are pleading guilty? Now the two.
You've already got one guy who pled guilty to altering an email that he submitted to the FISA
the guy in
court.
the divorce, the FBI agent. And I'll be the first.
I think Peter Strzok is probably going to be indicted, or the Durham report is probably going to implicate Strzok among others.
And I will say this: that there's no evidence of the Trump, and I believe they were just too stupid. There's no evidence of Trump being colluding with the Russian government. I'll be the first one to say it. I have no problem saying that. Now the problem I have, and it goes back to what I'm saying. What the feds did with those Republican people who pleaded guilty was we're going to go after everybody we can in your family.
Yep.
Or you're going to sing, and you're going to plead guilty. And this is what you're going to plead guilty to. And it's done with every case that the feds have one playbook, just one. Everybody knows that. And when people like in my opinion, when you say that Trump, like we've talked about the media, Trump is now turned on Fox News. Is Fox News persecuting Trump now? At some point, we have to set a standard. And I'm okay with the left saying, now, I don't think the left is going to go after Biden, and I think that's just radio conspiracy. I'm okay with the left progressive groups. Philosophically,
I think that's wishful thinking. I mean, they will turn on moderate elements in their own party. They will. They're already doing it.
They'll have internal struggles, and there'll be internal criticisms, which has already started. And that's the same thing the Tea Party group has always done with the Republican Party. But you can't show, and the Tea Party group has voted or tried to take over as Speaker of the House or whatever. And I'm fine with that. That's just politics. Mm-hmm. But the Tea Party group I don't think it would ever come out your mouth that they would try to overthrow Trump. Because let's be honest, all these Tea Party groups who are supposed to be ultra-conservative, Trump was nowhere near conservative. Socially conservative, yes. He expanded fiscal policy. Tariffs are not fiscally conservative. It's not an open market. So what I'm saying is, so when the game is played and it's when the rabbit has the gun, the rabbit's a terrorist. Mm-hmm. I'm defending God and church. And that's what infuriates me about this. It's like, fine, tell me the rules of the game. Last time we used the Ric Flair steel chair. Mm-hmm. Can I use the steel chair or not? Because, and I'll go ahead and say it. I applaud Trump for bringing Bannon. I don't agree with him, but I applaud him. Bannon wrote on the whiteboard, here's our 66 promises. Mm-hmm. And he crossed out every one of them. Right. In my opinion, it's the Democrats' turn. Now, philosophically, my problem is this. I don't believe there's a conservative fiscal movement in our country. And I do believe some entitlements have completely lost it. But what's this Secretary of Education, DeVos?
Betsy DeVos, yeah.
She's an idiot. She came from a family that gave a lot of money. And there's no qualifications for that. So if the Democrats want to go hire Hunter Biden while DeVos is walking around, I don't care. Now, in my world, does it offend me in the perfect viewpoint? Yes. But Ric Flair's using the chair. So I'm going to get my chair, and then I tell people all the time, and it's coming from litigation also. I used to stand up in court and say, Your Honor, hypothetical, Mr. Schwartz is not abiding by the rules of civil procedure. What rules can I ignore?
Yeah.
and every time people get that laugh, but we've all been home cooked.
Oh, yeah.
And you're sitting there saying, fine, if the rules don't apply, can I bring a steel chair? And what I'm saying is, when the Republicans come in, I don't have a problem with Haley Barbour, okay? Achieving the level he achieved.
Yeah.
I have a problem if you can't name a barber who has a job that Haley didn't help. Or let me say this. I know some of the lawyers named Barber, and they're fine people. Tell me how Austin and Henry Barber got their lobbying job besides their last name.
The name helps.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is...
I don't deny it.
We live in a world where Trent Lott's a lobbyist.
But that cuts both ways.
Totally does. Totally. I admit that. But
is Jody Owens DA if his last name isn't
No, totally not. And I totally agree
not that he's not qualified, not that he's not good. I'm just saying the name helped.
If you're a Trump, you've been exposed to things that you and I have not been exposed to. I grew up in towing. I was exposed at an early age about towboats at an early age, so there's a qualification for that. Richie was exposed to retail at an early age. But my problem is when the Democrats do the exact same thing the Republicans were doing, because I didn't hear about, name the Democrat that Trump appointed. It used to be, it was common knowledge, you had to appoint some people from the other party to your cabinet. Now, Biden has talked about it, and Biden's already named McCain's widow. Now, let's be honest.
Barack Obama didn't do that.
Barack Obama, I think I'm going to have to Google that. But what I'm saying is there was a reach out, whether it's McCain sticking up for Barack Obama, and Barack Obama said, John, he had a friendly relationship with John McCain, and, and all that. There was not an animosity for being on the other side. There was not this conspiracy theory of all this. There are people who are evil that do not agree with us. And I don't.
But yeah, there was. I mean, Joe Biden said during that campaign, he said that Mitt Romney was going to put black people back in chains. I mean, that's not unifying or a conciliatory tactic.
No, I understand that's politics, but what I'm saying is because we're debating about Obamacare, name another president that was questioned about being born outside the country and then presented his birth certificate, and the guy that accused him of being born outside the country gets elected president. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Bill Clinton, I can't say how much I can't stand Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. But what I'm saying is,
we don't like them now, but back in the day, I mean,
I couldn't stand them.
They had their day.
I thought he was a fairly good president.
I thought he was a good president.
I think he was an
effective president.
And my problem with Bill Clinton is he crossed the line.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton didn't represent his. He didn't represent unions. He didn't represent lawyers. He represented NAFTA.
Well, he governed to the middle.
And what I'm saying is, I'm fine if we all agree we're going to govern to the middle. But that is not the understanding. That last Supreme Court nominee was not to the middle. On any level of you cannot tell me a Notre Dame professor who's a Scalia clone was to the middle. That was red meat to the party, and I'm fine with that. And I'm not saying anything wrong with that. I'm saying that when my party's involved and we go extreme, and this is what happens all the time. Well, we don't know who did it. Fine, I don't know who started, and I'll concede that. I don't know who started it, but don't expect me to meet you in the middle. And you can say, well, we're just always going to be out in the street shooting each other. Okay. I mean, unless we have a unilateral resolution, I mean, it's infuriating to me that no Republican senators are really coming out. Like two of them, senators have come out and said, President-elect. There's a debate in right-wing media where we can call Biden President-elect yet. That's a joke. It's just a joke.
Well, he's not technically president-elect. I mean, the results haven't been certified.
Okay,
but I understand traditionally this is how we do it.
How about the lady not giving the money to Biden to go ahead and get his staff together? Well, who's in the federal government? The lady that
they're holding that up because of the
they're holding it up because she says she won't recognize him as president-elect, and she will not give the money to him that normally you give to a president-elect to come up with their administration, get all their
there's a transition.
Together.
There's actually
she won't do it.
Yeah.
She won't do it. She works for Trump, and she just won't do it.
And I understand they don't want to be the bad guys. They don't want to be ostracized by their party. They want the courts to do it. I understand the political move, but the problem with that is the political moves always comes back and justifies you not standing up for your ethics, not standing up for your morality, not holding me to the. Throw all the stones you want as long as you don't have any sin. But the moment, and I'm like, look, I've got tons of sin on me, but I can't stand preachers that get up there and talk about sin. I saw something last Sunday. We talked about it 2 Sundays ago or last Sunday. Well, let's talk about the LGBT community. Some First Baptist preacher. Man, I want to say, hey, man, what sin did you commit today? Yeah. Talk to me about that. But hang on. But it says right here that Obama, and I'm using political fact, I don't even know what that is, Obama appointed 3 people from the opposing party to his cabinet.
Did it say who they were?
I'm looking up.
Because I may have to be the judge of whether they were actually.
Yeah, it depends. You can call him anything you want, I guess.
Okay, wait. Robert Gates was one, but he isn't registered as a Republican, but he was a holdover.
Okay.
And he considered himself the Republican. The other two are Ray LaHood, Secretary of Transportation, and Senator Judd Gregg of New Hampshire as Commerce Secretary.
Okay.
And they said it's never been done for this article right here. So, no, it's traditional. Now, and let me say this. I'll Google Trump right now because I would hope that, but I mean, like the vilifying.
But Trump left a bunch of people. I mean, he left a whole bunch of Obama holdovers in the Department of Justice, like U.S.
The one he vilified every chance he got.
Well, yeah, but when it, I mean, there obviously, but and he vilifies everybody who doesn't like him. I mean, that's what he does. But like there was the one U.S. attorney who refused to resign that Trump had to fire. I mean, that was one that apparently the story on that is
the one that was investigating him. That's the one he fired.
Well, the
or wouldn't stop the investigation.
I can't remember the state, but he was an Obama holdover that he was going to fire. But Schumer and them were like, nah, he's good. He's not a partisan. So Trump actually left that guy in that position as a means of just trying to be conciliatory with some other Democrats. It was in New York, and so when the guy was doing things that were antagonistic to Trump, he said, well, fine, I'm going to hire my guy. And then the guy wouldn't resign, and so we had to fire him. But it was perfectly legal. I mean, he had every right to fire him. He left him in. So maybe not in the cabinet, but Trump did leave a lot of Obama-era holdovers in the Department of Justice. He fired a lot of them later. I think he ended up regretting that.
Hey, look,
but to that point, I mean, think about how actively so many of those Obama-era holdovers worked against him in the Department of Justice, for example. I mean, they were investigating him at the same time.
But what I'm saying is this victimization of Trump, or this victimization of our society, that a man who could actually win against, if there's ever been a shoe-in for president, it's been Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And I cannot stand that this victimization that Trump has somehow, is there a natural bias because most media are from New York and LA? Yes, I've admitted this ad nauseum. Does New York and LA understand how we live in this world or how we have guns? No, because they don't live in a town of 50,000 people.
Right.
They don't go hunting. I'm fine with all that. But what I'm saying is you can't win if you had this many conspiracies against you. The people in Nebraska are not that strong to defeat the deep state. Trump is not some sort of genius to defeat the deep state. The system is set up perfectly, so every 8 years, the 10% who get sick of the people in there just want to go a different way. And now,
it's that vote in the middle is what changes.
Correct.
Right? I mean, yeah.
And I mean, be quiet. You won't hear me say, okay, would you go to a popular vote?
No, absolutely not. I don't want New York and California to
That's
decide
right.
who
Yeah,
my
the
president
difference in the vote, in the popular vote count right now. Okay, Biden beat Trump in California by 5 million votes.
Yeah.
So 100% basically of the difference in the total popular vote count can be attributed to one state, California.
And I'm completely
so
fine with that.
That's why we have the Electoral College.
Yeah.
Calls to abolish it, people don't know what they're talking about. I think they don't understand.
Exactly. I'd be open to another system, but it would have to be weighted like the House of Representatives.
I mean, like if you're a Democrat and you don't mind that California would elect a Democrat president every time, I guess. But the idea, that's one of the problems with our politics is that the integrity of the institutions. We're starting to lose that respect or that idea that the integrity of the institution is more important than me gaining or maintaining political influence or power in the short term. And I think both sides are guilty of that. Instead of saying no, like it's like I would rather no one have this weapon at all, right? And have or I would rather not use this weapon lest someone have it in the future and use it against me. I'd rather nobody have it at all because it's better, because I don't want to use it against them. They shouldn't use it against me.
Well, the problem is
we're losing that respect for some of these institutions.
And
and the Electoral College, I think, is one of them.
What comes across, or what the Republican Party is failing in, I remember when not Musgrove, Wicker ran as a congressman on term limits.
Yeah.
And it was Newt Gingrich what do you call it? Not deal of America.
Contract with America.
Contract with America.
Yep.
And they were going to have term limits. And, well, I'm in here. No, I'm not. And what I'm saying is I understand it. And I don't expect it. And I mean, historically, we've always probably been pieces of crap. And, you know, if you go back through history, there was a time, you know, it was documented in Gangs of New York. You had to pay firemen to put out your fire.
Yeah, it was a private fireman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you didn't pay them, they don't care.
They let the building burn, right?
or they saved the building and they looted you.
Right.
So, I mean, we romanticize, we're progressing. My fear is, I'm almost to a point, like okay, this week, we had a state senator said we should succeed. He misspelled it.
Oh, Lord.
Under the Biden administration. And succeed.
Succeed.
He said
he didn't
succeed.
He didn't mean
but
succeed.
He means secede from the union.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm cool with that. We don't have to have a war. Have a vote.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, if we get to the point where, like, Washington, Oregon, California, and certain other centers in the middle of the country we just can't see eye to eye about anything. Yeah, and they say, oh, how about y'all go do your thing, we'll do ours.
Yeah. You don't have to have a war.
You don't fight. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
we're a ways off from that, though, I think.
But here's what these idiots don't understand. California, Washington, you know, how far do you go in? I mean, I'll go look at the Electoral College, but I think a lot of people in California,
Washington, Oregon,
Portland.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a city. That shows you how smart I am. California, Oregon, Washington. But I'm going through the map in my head. You've got.
You're talking about population centers?
Population centers.
Oh, yeah.
Portland, Seattle might get invited.
Seattle and Olympia are big. Got Portland. There's another. What's the other place in Oregon that's.
Vegas maybe goes with them.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, okay,
But you got parts of California, like there's been initiatives in the California legislature that
Northern California
where they want to split the state up.
Yeah, Northern California.
Because the differences politically are becoming so stark.
Right.
Where you've got the more traditional or the conservative side versus this progressive. California is a really progressive. I mean, and openly socialist, and admittedly so in a lot of ways. A lot of their leaders, and so once you get to that point,
okay. But what I'm saying is,
I don't know how you continue if you don't agree on certain basic fundamentals.
But California's going to be fine because Silicon Valley, they're not going to need money.
Well, it's huge too. It's 45 million people.
Yeah, okay.
It's the size of most European countries by itself.
But
and the economy is that big too by itself.
If we were doing a civil dissolution, California is bringing whatever crew they want to with them.
Yeah,
they're gone.
And then Texas is
would
have
gone.
Their thing.
Texas is saying we're good. We never like being in
here
anyway.
And then maybe a New England.
New England's maybe gone.
Yeah.
Chicago, Michigan, Wisconsin, maybe. Yeah. Maybe not.
See, that's where it gets interesting. Is in the middle.
Yes.
I mean, the edges are easy. You know what they would do.
Well, Florida's gone on its own.
Yeah.
Florida is either going to go with New York as an eastern coast, or they're like, we're good by ourselves.
Right.
But this is what people don't understand. The red states, or at least I know specifically, Nebraska supposedly donates more money to the federal government than they receive.
Yeah, but most of us are in the red in terms of federal spending. We send less than they send to us.
Mississippi's screwed.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to want us.
Yeah.
Because we're the bottom of entitlements. We get more money from federal government than anybody else. So we don't.
Not only do we get more, maybe more per capita. The numerical figure is not more, just because it's sheer force of the numbers.
Yeah. But I'm talking about per capita.
Maybe per capita.
Per capita, we're last.
Or the deficit. With our
last.
tax dollars sent. Like we send them $1 million, they send us $5 million.
So I don't even know if we could hook up with Alabama, Louisiana, and Arkansas. But when these people talk about civil dissolution, Medicare gone.
It's dumb. You can't.
Social Security gone.
Yeah, it's
your cell phone's not going to work.
Highway system is gone.
And I just look at people like
you can't. It can never happen.
Yeah, commerce and currency. It's a fun thing to talk about. I guess in both sides. I mean, you hear that sometimes too. Like California, people in California wanting to secede. I think we have to figure out a way to come back to agreeing on at least some core principles. And then how you implement those things, how that works out in practice, that's where you can disagree. But But the idea that we would fracture up into a bunch of smaller countries. I mean, then what about now? China runs the world.
Well, no,
right?
I mean, what I think what
that's
you do
not
is
a better
negotiate.
circumstance.
You would negotiate, but I mean, what these people and I mean, let's just say people got to understand in 1861, people in Mississippi didn't know anybody in New York.
Yeah,
transportation was so foreign. You're not getting on a flight. There's no flights coming to Mississippi if we become our own country. Yeah. And I hear these people say this stuff.
Yeah, we'd be like the Guatemala of North America.
And I just stare at people like, what are you talking about?
Wait, that was mean to Guatemala. I'm sorry.
Economics would come into play. And then, like I said, we would have to, and it gets back to when the governor says, well, I'm not going to do anything with COVID. Or let me go ahead and say this to any governors, Republican or Democrat in Mississippi. If the federal government wants you to do anything, and this is to every state except maybe New York and California, we'll withhold federal dollars. And it's over. The conversation's over.
Right.
You won't get your Medicaid supplement. You won't get Medicaid. We'll withhold highway and bridges and roads dollars.
And there's so many programs, grant funding, all the rest.
Yeah, your colleges were not getting federal funding. Done. And we're all going to get in line, and we're going to say, yes, sir.
Yeah.
This way? Are we going this way? Oh, no federal stimulus for Mississippi because they're not wearing masks.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I'm wearing a mask, and that's what I'm talking about. Is these people that there's so many conflicts now in our lives. I'm almost okay bringing duels back. You get one shot each. I'm sick of hearing y'all bitch about it.
Powder and ball.
Yeah, just one single shot. Y'all go handle it because think about it.
Ray, you crazy?
No, but think about this. If you and I are gonna bump chest, or you and I are gonna press charges or take videos, and you and I both know that if this escalates, one of us could die immediately.
You might think twice.
You're not going to... No, I'm good, Stephen.
Yeah.
You can have the parking spot.
Well, it requires two of you to agree to a duel.
That's what I'm saying, but it's like, oh, you don't have a mask on, you're coming in and yelling at me, do you want to duel about it? And I mean, they'd be like, no, I'm good. Or, when they're holding guns, or, when you're sitting there, because this is this was not that far ago. If anybody wants to talk about founding fathers, this is literally... how Hamilton got killed.
Yeah. In a duel.
Yeah.
But I think this is where I mentioned federalism earlier. I mean, this is where I think our federal system is very durable. And federal, I don't mean the federal government. The principles of federalism are very durable. I think one of the solutions is to decentralize some of the power. Like I thought this was a great idea. I heard someone mention this. I can't remember who, but saying that one of the things that there's beginning to be some talk about is maybe busting up Washington and locating federal agencies in different states. I think allowing California to be as liberal or progressive as they want to be, but also letting a place like Mississippi be as conservative as they want to be. I mean, I think that's one of the solutions instead of there's this counter push to federalize, to centralize. And I think that's dangerous if we can hold on to those principles of federalism. Let different states be different.
But your party is supposed to be the party for that, the Republican Party, and they've done everything. And of course, let me go ahead and say this: this is somewhat economic based. They've done. It used to be if you sold a product in Mississippi, you had to answer to the Mississippi Supreme Court whether it's effective or not. Mm-hmm. Now it's like if the FDA approves it, we approve it, and most of the time the FDA studies are paid by the companies who are holding them.
And based on studies of the company who's trying to sell the product.
Correct. And what I'm saying is we have gotten so far away now. The Democrats never believe in it, and I'm fine with that. But for the party who's supposed to be for states' rights, more federal jurisdiction for the federal courts, more we get answered by the people in the Supreme Court. I mean, one of the greatest things I think to come out of the Trump administration is he can't pardon himself for New York crimes.
That's debatable.
That's
debatable. That's going to be litigated. That's going to be litigated
on a state level. Yeah. But I completely agree with you. But it goes back to where we started as the last show. The Commerce Clause has been used. I think it was under Bush. It was under W that California couldn't sell marijuana because it would violate the Commerce Clause. That's a joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't care if you want to do whatever you want to in your state, especially now that I can pack up. In 1800s, we weren't packing up.
Yeah.
But in 2020, I can pack up and go to New Orleans. I can pack up. And you don't know how many times I used to get calls from people who were LBGTQ, and they're like, I won't be recognized. You'll never be recognized in Jackson, Mississippi. If I were you, I'd go to New Orleans. I was like, we can argue it, we can sue this person, we can do all this, but I would never live my lifestyle.
Or you could go to a community where it's already,
you're going to get killed. You're going to get, it's wrong. But but it's the same thing here. I'm okay with abortion being a states' right issue, but the problem with that is it gets back to when does life begin? And I don't think we're going to be naming fetuses names, and they're going to have social security numbers, and they're going to have rights. I think that's where you get into it. Either it's a life or it's not.
Right.
But to me, I'm fine with states' right issues. The problem is the Republican Party right now does not want it, and I think we've been bowing down to big corporations.
Now the state has determined, and Mississippi has determined, as far as a car accident is concerned, when a fetus is alive, it's called quicken. And when that fetus is moving, that fetus has a claim. If something happens to that fetus, it has a claim separate and independent from the person or the mother who had it.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if we are supporting that, if you say upon not even quickening under the new interpretation of the hypothetical supposed interpretation of the Supreme Court, life will begin at conception. Mm-hmm. So that means that's a compensable
and that means
component.
That people can be charged for murder if they use drugs and have a miscarriage. That means that, there's no end to the consequences for something like that.
But I'm all great for states, just like you said, because I don't think we know capital punishment. Mm-hmm. I don't think we know abortion. And if you come to me and say, Brent, we got some new data tomorrow, I'll be like, okay. Because, we're advancing as a society, mm-hmm. but what we're not doing is we're becoming too dependent on federal government. And I don't think the state of Mississippi should get so much federal money. I think we should live within our means. And when we don't, and people don't, I think you become, look, when I was on student loans, I did not realize how addicted I was to that money. Because you're like, hey, this money, I thought I was working and I was studying all the time, and then you have to go earn a living.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think one of the things that's holding us back is all this federal money.
Yeah, but so much of the federal money is healthcare, right? You look at the pie chart, the budget for Mississippi, like half of the chart is Medicaid.
But we're not going to have a diabetes explosion. The number one thing to fight diabetes, diet and exercise.
Yeah.
And preventative health care is where we're losing. It's infuriating to me to have a state with 37% African American population and we don't have a Democratic Party. You should be able to get 5 to 8% of the white vote every 4 years to be a challenge.
Right.
And we can't even do that here.
There is a problem about the people coming out and vote. There's no question about that, and it's a real problem. And I think it's apathy in the sense that a lot of people don't think it's going to make a bit of difference in their life. They don't care what's going to happen, and then it's not going to come out and vote.
Yeah, I almost voted for Kanye West in the presidential election because walking into that voting booth, I knew the presidential election in Mississippi, at least, it was over.
Yeah.
They called Mississippi when as soon as the first precinct reported, they called Mississippi for Trump, and it was, and so I was like, you know what, my vote is not going to matter. I might just throw one to Kanye, but I didn't. But but you'd be able, if you're a Democrat voting in a statewide election in Mississippi, just like if I was a Republican in California, I'd be discouraged. I might just sit. I might just not show up. It's not going to matter.
But I think
Brent is right. You start to think that way.
Yeah, I think Brent is right that Mississippi should be a Democratic state on a national level and state level.
I won't even want to.
I think it should be because you're going to get 10 to 15% of the white vote who are Democratic.
I don't even want the I'm not even going to say Democratic state. I'm going to say at least a toss up.
Where a Democrat could win, every now and again.
Well, you'd have two choices. Okay, like you said, there was no choice for president in Mississippi.
You could vote for Biden, but if Trump was going to win, he was going to win 60-40, 65-35.
Was there a legitimate choice? And I guess you could say SB was a
SB worked hard. Choice. He spent a lot of money.
42%.
He worked hard.
42%.
Yeah.
What was the other elections? Congressman Michael Guest. I had Michael Guest.
But that's all about the line. Like Benny Thompson's race is never competitive. It's always just so I experience it both ways because I vote in that 2nd congressional district. But most of the time now I just vote for Benny Thompson because he's going to win, and maybe one of these days I might need to say, hey, I voted for voting for Congressman Thompson. I'm a supporter. It's like people protesting like the NFL or whatever and saying we're not watching this anymore. Now they officially don't care what you think because you're not a customer anymore, right?
Well, see,
if you're a customer, maybe they'll care what you think. So I vote for Congressman Thompson just because you can't beat him, join him, right? I mean, and then maybe he'll do some stuff for the Republican or the conservative in his district.
We're having, I mean, we for those who wonder, we try to have a diverse panel, and we have a hard time scheduling other people. But we try to have. But I mean, sometimes I wonder if the 2nd congressional district does not hurt African Americans more than it helps.
I don't know. He goes to bat. He gets Mississippi a lot of. I'm
not talking about. I'm not talking about him personally. I'm talking about because you're going to have this district that the Democrats, it seems, in Mississippi is just focused on Benny. On that, we've got that position and we're good with that position.
Right.
Instead of saying, I want to be governor, I want lieutenant governor. Can y'all name
or a Senate seat? Why could you not have a moderate win one of the Senate
correct
races? Moderate Democrat.
And what I'm saying can y'all name a promising young Democrat in Mississippi?
I mean, there's lots of locals. I just don't know about their statewide appeal.
Yeah.
Jody Owens is a
Jody is upcoming. No question about it.
I mean, he is super nice. I think he's smart. He's good at what he does now.
I don't have any. Jody and I.
Not that he was. I said he's good at what he does
but
now.
I don't
He's good at what he does. He's good.
Statewide election.
First of all, Jody's still learning to be district attorney. I don't think someone who's learning.
But he's a young guy.
He's a young guy.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential for other things.
Okay.
I think like Mayor Lumumba has aspirations, but I just don't know that he doesn't have statewide appeal.
He's failing horribly.
Yeah, so he's not going to get crossover vote.
We were trying to figure out. Some people made calls to me about U.S. attorney under Biden. Usually the people who pick for U.S. attorney have a lot of federal trial work and criminal trial work in the federal courts, but both has happened. The last person that was picked for Obama was primarily a bankruptcy attorney, in my understanding.
Who was Obama's? Was that Lampton? No, Lampton was Bush.
That was Bush. That was
Goss.
Goss.
Okay.
And he had a very good.
And he's a great guy.
He's a great guy,
good lawyer.
but he was not a federal prosecutor.
And who was Trump's?
Trump's Mike Hurst.
Mike Hurst, right?
And Mike was at AUSA.
That shows how much.
Mike has got
shows you how much federal
experience
work
and the ability. to. I mean, no question about his ability.
Usually, you expect your U.S. attorney, even if it's a Republican appointee, to be a guy that lawyers at least look at and go,
tried at 50 cases.
That guy knows what he's doing as far as.
There's no Carlos Tanner's name has been out there. But there's not any young or Gerald Mumford, Hinds County prosecutor. His name is thrown out there because he clerked for Wingate.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ephraim Sellers, a friend of mine, he does a lot of federal court work. He's the head Rankin County public
He's a good
defender.
lawyer.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, and maybe because I'm getting older, where I know these people. Yimmy Kings, who's a friend of mine, assistant county prosecutor, Hinds County. There's not a lot of people out there who just saying, boom, that's going to be the next one. That's who should be it. And it's one of those things where you wonder, why aren't these people being built? Why aren't these machines? Why aren't we? I mean, to me, because one of the problems is because you can't try cases in Mississippi anymore because of the Republican Party.
What do you mean you can't try cases?
Because everybody knows that if you take a criminal case up to the Supreme Court, you're going to lose 7-2.
You mean you as a defendant of
as a
criminal?
Defendant, yes.
That's correct.
Well, I mean, if you know you're going to win, then I've got to advise my criminal defendants, hey, we can keep on trying this, but because of politics, you're not going to win under a due process right. You've been accused of killing someone. Politically, it's going to be a bad move. 7-2 is a conservative vote. That's what they're going to rule on basis. Also works both ways. We try cases, but we understand do you have a case where you're going to take it up to the Supreme Court and think you're not going to lose 7-2?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had guilty pleas, I've had this, I've had that, and usually 7-2, or 9-0.
But they're hard to win even with I'm not saying the court is unbalanced, but assuming that even with a more balanced, I guess from a political standpoint.
Are you talking about criminal or civil?
Criminal.
Okay.
It's still really hard to win a criminal case on appeal. I mean, but
that is true because you really got to show
it's so fact specific.
Yeah, you got to really show that the prosecutor did something really wrong.
But
because how do you say the jury was wrong, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
But I'll disagree with y'all on this. I mean, guys, we don't litigate in Mississippi because it's like point of evidence. We just got the rules of criminal procedure passed. We did not have a rule for criminal procedure for 20 years.
But we did have a lot of rules.
We had uniform circuit and county rules. Those were not rules of criminal. You had more rules in a car wreck than you did for a murder charge.
Well, that's true. And every jurisdiction was really different.
And let me tell you, when I first came out of law school, there were no rules of discovery.
There weren't even rules of civil procedure.
There were none.
Yeah.
And it was all trial by ambush.
Yeah.
There was no discovery. There was no rules of any kind when you first came out. You just went and tried it.
Like ESI's discovery, and now this is getting way into the weeds, but electronic discovery. We don't do that in Mississippi, in New York, and in Birmingham. And my whole point is this: it only works if you have two parties fighting each other.
Right.
When it's like this, you get into, is there corruption like the news allegedly? Now, the news or the individuals, Nancy New and her family are the ones who've been indicted for allegedly embezzling DHS funds. And
she just said something.
She spoke to the press about she was directed to give money to a doctor in Florida. And that's why I'm saying we can't really get into that. We're going to do a deep dive later on that. Yeah. But that's when you have people like the alleged Hunter Biden. That's when you've got to have a checks and balances, but you also can't criminalize everything. But anyway, we're going to end here because we're running out of steam, and this is a special Saturday. We're doing this because Thanksgiving's coming up. We want a couple of shows in the can, but we will do this in 2 weeks. Is our next scheduled recording in 2 weeks? So. Yes, we'll come back after the weekend of Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays to everybody out there.
You can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us on our Facebook page. And also, you can email us at the Richie and Hazz show at gmail.com. If anybody has any questions, we're going to start trying to do a live stream coming up. We're still in the early stages, but we appreciate everybody watching. We hope you enjoy it. We'll see y'all next week.